of more freedom and well-being have not actually been achieved. And we surmise, we couldn't give the proof, but we surmise that a dictatorship under the name of communism is not very much better than a dictatorship under the name of Nazism or fascism. But I have an idea that just being against an idea, just being against communism is not going to win the struggle that we are engaged in today. We are engaged in a struggle which I think has to be won by devotion to the ideals of democracy and by a realization on the part of the people of the United States, because our country happens to be the greatest democracy, and though I think we were perhaps ill-prepared as yet for the leadership that has fallen upon us, still we are the leaders, not only in economic and military strength, but the leaders in spiritual and moral strength. And if that is the case, since our country is open, and all people can see what happens here, and it is spread abroad to the ends of the earth, perhaps one of the things we want to think about is how we live the ideals of democracy. There was a time when we did not give our democracy very much thought. We had enjoyed privileges and freedoms, but the obligations that went with those privileges and freedoms we'd almost forgotten about, because we took the privileges and freedoms so much for granted. But now we have to remember that every little blemish is recorded, is repeated, is known all over the world. I happen to have been one of your delegates to the United Nations ever since the first meeting in London in 1946. In fact, I'm the only one of your delegates that has attended every meeting as a delegate. I have never happened to be unable to attend, and I have been reappointed and confirmed each time. So I have attended every General Assembly meeting since 1946. Now, I know a great many people feel that the United Nations has just been a debating society and that very little has been accomplished. I would be the first one to agree that it was a debating society, but I would not agree that very little had been accomplished, because we've seen many things done and many things begun that I think, given time, will prove of great value to the world. But we never have completely been able to organize the United Nations. So the force, which should be collective instead of in individual nations, is still in the hands of individual nations and not in the hands of the United Nations. That means that we do not have a fully organized United Nations. But we've seen in the past few years new nations come into being. And they've come into being and come in as members of the United Nations. And if nothing else has happened, we've had a meeting place. A meeting place which if we didn't have today, we'd be scurrying about trying to find out how to get the people together. We've had a place where people who wanted to learn about their neighbors in the world had a chance. They had a chance to learn. I never go through a meeting that I don't feel that I've learned something about people somewhere in the world. And I also will have to tell you that I never go through a meeting that I don't realize how little I know and how little I understand. Because we've lived in such a big country that it comes almost naturally to think that what you know and what you experience is really the only thing worth knowing and worth experiencing. And that's not exactly the attitude that helps you to understand the other peoples of the world. I had a good deal of opportunity when I was young to see a certain amount of people from other parts of the world, and I knew Europe fairly well. And I thank heavens I was made to learn some languages, because I find that if you can even haltingly say a few words in the language that someone is at home in, it makes a little difference in their feeling about you and gives being with you. I feel that as an educational center, the United Nations has been vastly worthwhile. I would agree that